It was fun. I love this sport. I gave it my all. It's fucking crazy. I had a blast, and thank you to all the fans and everyone.
All right, folks, it's over. Anthony Joshua knocks out Jake Paul in the 6th round of their fight on Netflix.
All that would align with a ring that size, a negative style, as we mentioned. It really comes down to the fan interest. Jake Paul is on a 2-fight stretch coming into this one, which really put his reputation on the line.
Top boxing analysts react as Jake Paul considers retirement after his stunning knockout defeat to Anthony Joshua. Once he conquers all boxing milestones, Jake hints at an NFL transition, signaling a career-defining pivot. This move sparks massive sports media buzz, streaming engagement, and high-value sponsorship attention.
NFL after this, like legitimately, just to play like safety and just deck people. No, I swear to God, I'm about to bring hella ratings to whatever team I'm on.
Where would you want to go if you can go to any team?
Shit, the Browns.
So
I can run a 4.34.
He's the fastest man on the planet.
I got hands. I have the size, the power. I can knock people out with one punch. So why can't I play free safety?
Do you think you coming into the NFL would be the equivalent of like when an NFL player says, I'm going to try to box now?
No, because I played football my whole life. At the end of the day, it's coverage, knowing your plays, and then just being fast and willing.
The boxing world erupted after Jake Paul's shocking knockout, sparking viral debates and explosive takes on his career trajectory. Former champ Duke McKenzie slammed the mismatch, pointing out how undersized Jake looked against Anthony Joshua. Even his punches fell short, failing to land on AJ, exposing the stark skill gap. Social media buzzed with comments like, "Jake Paul has done, his career is over." MC Kenzie warned that continuing such fights could seriously damage Jake's reputation and brand value. With pay-per-view stakes, betting eyes, and global boxing audiences watching this, knockout isn't just a loss. It's a career-defining, high-risk, revenue-shaking event.
Paul tried to throw a shot. He would lunge in, jump in, and because he was so short, he'd miss. And then he ended up stumbling over his feet and falling over. Sometimes in that fight, he reminded me of, have you seen that Kung Fu film called The Drunken Master? Except for he wasn't a master. There's a Kung Fu guy who walks around and normally kicks people's ass. But he looks drunk all the time. That's what that fight reminded me of. It was such a poor showing from Jake Paul. You know, I mean, it's a well-documented fact. There was a lot of money on the line, and I'm sure you, Max, as I would, and anybody else in the street would fight Anthony Joshua for 75 million. You just would, and the same thing would happen. And even after the fight, now the fight's over. You're 75 million.
Chelsea, a former fan, couldn't hide her relief over Jake Paul's stunning defeat, posting, "I hardly come here anymore, but I'm so glad he lost. Maybe now he'll stay quiet." Former UFC champ Michael Bisping labeled the fight a masterclass, highlighting how Anthony Joshua's brutal uppercuts and combinations left Paul defenseless. Despite desperate attempts to evade, Jake absorbed relentless punishment, sustaining serious damage to his face and body. Bisping stressed the need for full recovery before any comeback. This fight revealed Jake's limits against elite opponents, making headlines across sports media, betting platform, and digital pay-per-view markets, proving top-tier boxing remains unforgiving for social media stars.
In my humble opinion, because I'm a big Anthony Joshua fan. Of course, I've been a supporter for the longest time. A rather lackluster, unmotivated Anthony Joshua that didn't look like he was being particularly nasty, right? A lot of the time he was out of range, and okay, it is hard to land a shot on someone that's backing up and moving away the whole time. And there was a lot of times where he had him in the corner and he could have thrown a shot. And sometimes he was telegraphing his shots. And anytime he did go in to throw a punch, as I said before, Jake Paul would shoot in and turn it into a wrestling match. And even when he wasn't shooting in, he was clinching a lot. This is boxing. It's not MMA, as we know. The referee should have done a much better job of getting in there and separating them much, much faster. As I say, it was the 6th round. I think it was the 4th round he got dropped twice. In the 5th round, he got through it. In the 6th round, caught him with the jab, then a glancing right hook. He goes down, and that was that. That was all she wrote, right? I did a live. There was about 9,000 people watching at one point. Nobody was particularly enjoying the matchup. Listen, okay? I respect both men. I respect anyone really that steps into the ring, okay? And certainly going up against Anthony Joshua, that was a tall task, okay? You know, metaphorically and figuratively, right? It was a tall task. It was a big job. It was a tough opponent. It was a mismatch, and it was, right? Jake Paul never worried Anthony Joshua once. He never rung his bell. He never caused any damage. He never had him worried. He never did anything. It wasn't a fight. It was a display of how long can Jake Paul last? Can he run away long enough to...
Ex-user Keberall reacts to Jake Paul's shocking injury, sharing Jake Paul has been rushed to the hospital with a suspected broken jaw. Forced into early retirement, this is huge. Sean Jones weighs in on the brutal Paul versus Anthony Joshua clash, stressing the fight wasn't staged or scripted. Despite Jake's jaw taking the hit, Joshua didn't unleash his full power, hinting the knockout could have been catastrophic. Jones underscores the injury's severity while applauding the match's authenticity. Facing a world-class boxer like Joshua exposed the harsh reality of elite competition. Jake's setback now highlights the risks, intensity, and high-stakes drama that drive global boxing viewership and massive pay-per-view revenue.
For all those people who were fully convinced that this fight was 100% rigged, like people said that this is a clown show, and they said, this is rigged, this is scripted. Okay, so now Joshua's won. What are you going to say to that? So was it scripted that Joshua was going to win? You see this whole narrative about, oh, the fight's rigged, the fight's scripted. That's illegal to do, and Joshua is not going to tarnish his legacy by doing something like that. Would Jake Paul do something like that? Maybe so, yeah, but not someone like Joshua. Come on. Now, to be fair, 80% of that fight was looking a little bit dodgy. It was looking like Joshua wasn't throwing as much as he usually would. Jake Paul was landing on Joshua. He landed a really strong jab that knocked Joshua's head back. He landed a couple of decent overhand rights. In fact, Jake was kind of the first one who landed the biggest shots of the fight. But this is the thing, anyone who fights, even on like a low-level basis, or who just does some sparring, will understand that when you fight someone who has got nowhere near the skill level as you, sometimes it can be a little bit harder because they're awkward, they're doing stuff that you don't really expect. You know, sometimes when you fight beginners, it's a bloody nightmare. Just like, you know, awkward movements. You're like, what are they throwing? You don't expect certain shots to come that do come. And then you fight someone who's a little bit more traditionally sound with the fundamentals, and it's almost a little bit easier. And I think that's what we've seen here in this fight. AJ has had an easier time with some fighters who've got like 40 professional fights with 20 KOs on the record than he did with Jake Paul. Why is that? Oh, because it's scripted. It's scripted. No, it's not scripted. It's just because Jake Paul is awkward and he's a beginner in relation to Joshua. So Joshua just took some time to figure them out. You could see Joshua was getting a little bit frustrated in that 4th and 5th round, but then he started figuring.
User Mir7Wan delivered a viral warning to Jake Paul after his crushing defeat, urging, do everyone a favor and don't return. The boxing community is buzzing, with real fans questioning Jake's future in the ring. Analyst Liam Goff highlights that Jake faces serious career setbacks after his brutal loss to Anthony Joshua. Severe injuries, including a broken jaw, demand extended recovery, putting any fight plans on indefinite hold. Goff emphasizes that this downtime is critical for Jake's long-term health, professional longevity, and future earnings potential. With millions watching, sponsorships, pay-per-view revenue, and media attention hang in the balance, making this a defining moment in Jake Paul's boxing journey.
When he had that face-off with Tank Davis, he was looking at a guy who was, what, 5-6 inches shorter than him and probably 60-70 pounds lighter, right? So he was probably looking at that thinking, yeah, you're a legit boxer, yeah, you hit very hard, but look how much bigger I am to you. Contrast that to him looking up at Anthony Joshua and realizing, oh my God, look at the size of you in comparison to me. That's a bit different. And I think with Jake Paul, it really dawned on him what's going on. But Jake Paul has to keep face. He has to stay essentially in that persona that, you know, I am the man, I'm going to win this, trying to sell it, trying to sell a dream to a casual, a bit like what Eddie Hearn does, trying to sell the casual audience that this is going to be a real fight, quote unquote. It was a real fight. It's not scripted, but you know what I mean, that he's really in this fight. That's what he was trying to do. And he did that well up until fight night. And boy, did he fail miserably on fight night. Again, I give him credit. He doesn't need to box. He can choose an easier profession, as I say. But to go in and to run around the ring like that, that was something else entirely. I mean, he was doing his best Roadrunner impression in there. He was running around that ring from the minute that bell went. That was all he was trying to do. And listen, AJ's performance, I can critique it from a defensive point of view, that he got hit with some silly shots that he probably shouldn't have been hit with. He was trying to cut the ring off in a ring as big as that. It's not easy. All right. And furthermore, if you're in there with an opponent who purely just wants to survive, he's no interest in winning the fight. He just wants to go the rounds. People, you could be one of the most you could be a prime Mike Tyson, Bone Crusher Smith, prime example. People never talk about that fight with Mike Tyson because they say, oh yeah, prime Mike.
After a recent injury, Jake Paul shared a major update on X, revealing he just completed surgery and is recovering under expert care. Everything went smoothly, he wrote, thanking his medical team at Miami University Hospital for their professionalism. Despite pain and a restricted liquid diet, his focus remains sharp. Boxing analyst Wade noted that Jake's strategy isn't about defending multiple belts. It's about chasing massive money fights in 2026, potentially against stars like Canelo or even Tyson Fury if he fully commits. While Jake hasn't yet matched elite fighters like AJ in skill or power, Wade praises his courage. Social media exploded with reactions, highlighting Jake's high-stakes risk-taking. The fight delivered a revenue-generating spectacle, blending pay-per-view hype, global attention, and digital dominance, ensuring boxing fans witnessed an unforgettable, legacy-building event.
2026, and I don't think he fights a ton in 2026. I think it'll be a very slow year for him. Look for those two guys as the main two he would fight. I wish it was Tommy Fury, but I doubt it. On the other side, I want to see him get back into boxing specifically, get back into committing to this, because there is a massive, massive fight that awaits him in Tyson Fury. It's far past time that it happened. If they don't do it now, they never will. And yeah, man, I don't really know what else to say on this fight. As far as, what happened in there tonight, I know on Twitter people are going to want their money back, or they're going to call it a bad fight or a sloppy fight or whatever. And then there's going to be people, celebrating Jake's downfall. That was always going to be the case. Of course, the first time he gets rocked, dropped, and stopped, people are going to celebrate like it's the 4th of July, or it's their birthday, or like it's Christmas. So yeah, expect that, but I won't do that here. I won't, because I respect the hell out of him for going and doing it, and there's not any normal people on earth that would have done it. I don't care if you say, oh, for the money.
Shockwaves hit the boxing world as Jake Paul reveals a devastating double jaw break, leaving fans and insiders stunned. Anthony Joshua's brutal victory has sidelined Jake indefinitely, forcing a pause in his high-profile, revenue-generating career. Experts warn that recovery will demand intensive rehabilitation, strict rest, and careful monitoring to avoid long-term complications, making any fight plans impossible for now. Social media erupted with concern, emphasizing athlete safety and career longevity. Jake has updated fans, thanking his medical team while sharing the intense pain and limitations of recovery. With training off limits and competition halted, all focus shifts to complete healing. This injury isn't just a setback, it's a defining moment, pausing one of boxing's most attention-grabbing, monetizable careers, while amplifying anticipation for his return to the ring.
You that thought that the Anthony Joshua-Jake Paul fight was going to be rigged, these x-rays definitely tell a different story. So on December 19th of 2025, as I'm sure most of you are probably aware, Jake Paul fought the two-time unified heavyweight champion Anthony Joshua at the Cassia Center in Miami, Florida, which was streamed exclusively on Netflix as part of a major boxing event that was promoted by Paul's Most Valuable Promotions. The ending result was Anthony Joshua won by knockout in the 6th round after Jake Paul was knocked down 4 times in total, twice in the 5th round and twice in the 6th round. Anthony Joshua landed 48 punches on Jake Paul compared to Jake Paul landing about 16 on Anthony Joshua. And this is the 2nd professional loss of Jake Paul's fighting career, dropping his record down to 12-2. Now, Jake Paul ended up suffering a double broken jaw during the fight and was taken to the hospital afterward, skipping the post-fight press conference, probably because he probably couldn't talk. But in his in-ring interview, he said, "That was crazy. I had a blast. I think my jaw is broke." Anyway, as far as his professional fighting career is concerned, as of December 20th of 2025, he doesn't have any new opponents that have been announced, and it's expected that his jaw injury is going to take 4 to 6 weeks to recover from. Regardless of how you feel about him, that dude fought a 2-time heavyweight champion and survived. And I think we can all agree that regardless of how you feel, that takes some serious...
Analysts Brian Campbell and Shakil Mahjouri joined CBS Sports to dissect Jake Paul's latest fight, highlighting his tactical brilliance and entertainment value. Paul's signature elusiveness, constant movement, and ring IQ kept him safer and extended his rounds.